I would like to call the April 9th, 2025 City Council regular meeting to order. Will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carrie,
I have been in communications with Mr. Carey, and he has a medical appointment and will be unavailable for the meeting tonight. And if there's no objections, I would like to have it as an excused absence.
Chilson,
Present.
Hutchings,
Here.
Nelson,
Present.
Parker, Wackler,
Present.
Kincaid.
Present.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll
Ms.
make a
Hutchins.
motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented.
May I have a second, please? Mr. Nelson, thank you. Vice Mayor Parker.
Yes, I would request that we remove Resolution 2025-010 and Resolution 2025-11 from the consent agenda.
Thank you. Would the clerk please read the consent agenda?
March 26, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. Ordinance 2025-007, amending Soldotna Municipal Code Titles 2, 3, 13, 17, Titles 2, 13, and 17 regarding quasi-judicial appeals and enacting Chapter 2.52 to establish hearing officer standards, sponsored by Vice Mayor Parker, public hearing on April 23rd. Resolution 2025-012, authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding for the Kenai River Baseline Water Quality Monitoring Program, sponsored by the city manager. Resolution 2025-013, amending the FY25 authorized personnel staffing table to add a field house coordinator and to approve additional positions, rename positions, and reclassify positions related to the field house for FY26, sponsored by the city manager. That is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Parker, did you also want to include number 12, the staffing?
No.
Okay.
I figured we'd have that discussion during budget.
Are there any public comments on any of the items just read by the clerk? Anybody wishing to comment on any of the items right under the consent agenda? Seeing no one here in the audience, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised on Zoom. So moving on to having no one wishing to speak, the approve of the agenda and consent agenda is back before the council. Any objections to approving the agenda and consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. Next item on the agenda is presentation with prior notice. And the first one will be Kenai Watershed Forum Update, Trenton Dotson, Executive Director, and Benjamin Meyer, Environmental Scientist, Water Quality Coordinator. Yep, just grab one.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. We know we have a resolution to sign our MOU, and so we thought we would come and answer any questions that you might have regarding that. And Ben can certainly speak to a lot more of the technical side of things than I can. We did prepare a video for you all. I hope maybe many of you were able to see it, and we would like to show it today as well. This was a very nice video that we were able to put together with Martin Media, and it was sponsored and paid for by ConocoPhillips. And it's just an overview of the program, the water quality monitoring program that we do every summer. And thought this would be a great way to kind of get you all informed on how that project works, what we're looking for. And then, of course, like I said, answer any questions you might have on the MOU and the program in general. So if
If I would figure it out. Hang on,
Technical difficulties.
I'm working on it.
Always.
Or just, slideshow.
The field house just wants to be front and center.
It's a nice
Field house
facility.
all day long.
There we go.
And go.
The Kenai River Baseline Water Quality Monitoring Project first initiated in the year 2000. And it was the culmination of efforts by a lot of different community groups.
One of the main reasons the Watershed Forum was formed was to get together a group of people to start doing water quality monitoring on the Kenai River and its many tributaries.
We have so many users out here. The Kenai is very busy. Monitoring the river is really important.
And there's been some things that we've changed over the years, but we're still monitoring at those same 22 sites.
From the Kenai Lake all the way down to the mouth of the river, and then several tributaries in between. And so we're collecting water samples in May and July. And then those water samples are analyzed for anywhere from bacteria, to metals, definitely looking for hydrocarbons at certain times in certain places, any kind of pollutant or contaminant we can find. We're just kind of giving the river its biannual physical checkup and just comparing it to year to year to year and seeing if there's any anomalies or abnormalities.
We care strongly about the fish habitat that surrounds the Kenai and our cold water fisheries. I care about for water quality is the pollution that goes into the Kenai. And so by maintaining this vegetation along the stream side, we're able to help prevent that pollution from going into the Kenai. And then to be able to test it through this project and to make sure that our vegetation, everything's doing its job is pretty cool, and it ties everything together.
From the inception of the organization, that's sort of been the impetus of that program. And it's just grown. You know, I think what's really neat about it is that you see not only our organization, but many organizations, plus just volunteers. We have several people that have just come down from Anchorage to help out. So I think that's what's really neat about the program. Over time, it has grown, but it has grown with volunteers and other agencies. And it's a large cooperative program, unlike many that are around. So I think that's really neat to see.
Two-stroke boat engines were fairly common here, and they tend to cause more hydrocarbon pollution issues than the newer four-stroke engines. Ultimately, what happened is two-stroke engines are no longer allowed to be used in the Kenai River. We worked with Comanche Indian Tribe to carry out a program where people could bring in their old two-stroke boat engines and receive a cash voucher to purchase a new four-stroke boat engine. After carrying out that program for several years, the issue of hydrocarbons exceeding pollution standards was no longer such an issue. So I feel that's a really great example of how this program has helped. As we learn more about the information that we have, it will help us decide what sort of additional work we should be doing.
Our alloy's actively looking for volunteers. We started doing a booth at the Wednesday market here at Soldotna Creek Park. So that happens every Wednesday. We've got a booth there to try to recruit volunteers. You can always go to our website, kenaiwatershed.org, and there's ways to volunteer there. Not only this project, but we have many projects that are volunteer-centric. Streamwatch is one, and that is 80+ volunteers a year going out, taking care of the river, talking to anglers, making sure they are accessing the river properly, not trampling, very important riparian habitats. And then, anything else we do, any volunteers we have for that, the better. And so check out our website, give us a shout, and come see us at the park.
Imagine if you could partner with the world's richest man by taking a
There you go.
There you go. Thank you for indulging us on that. I think that came out really great. It really gets the message across. And of course, the city of Soldotna has been a great partner on that project, supplying lab services for us in kind. So we really do appreciate that. And really what we're doing is trying to update our MOU. It was supposed to be updated every 5 years, and that lapsed in, I think, 2015. 2020. And so we're just trying to get caught back up on that and get all of our current partners re-signed onto the MOU. Again, it doesn't obligate you to any financial obligations. It doesn't obligate to anything other than we think this is a good project. We want to partner with you and support it. So that's why we came to the mayor and to the city manager to see if we could get that re-signed. And so we're here today. Ben provided a lot of information to you all, I know, but if you have any questions or any comments, that's why we're here tonight. So we appreciate it.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Chilson?
Thank you for all the work you do here in our community, and excellent video, very informative. Question, I'm just, since tackling the issue of two-stroke to four-stroke, based on the data you're gathering from water samples across the watershed, today, what are the main concerns that you have for the health of the watershed at this point in time that are emerging?
Thank you, Council Member Chilson and everyone else here this evening. I can speak a little bit further to that. I feel like there's some things that are very much in our control that we can do things about, and some things that it's more complicated, and maybe that's less the case. In my mind, as an ecologist and a biologist, the thing I'm most interested in is water temperature. That's really the master variable for all things that live in the water. That being said, there are some things we can do about temperature, like understanding where cold water seeps come in and really understanding the conservation values of those spots, ensuring that there's riparian vegetation to provide shading in some places. But like the large scale drivers of water temperature are arguably less in our local control. Things that are in our local control that we're also monitoring for were briefly mentioned in the video. I'm especially interested in the type of runoff that happens from impervious surfaces, and we get calls at our office often about this topic, most especially on the topic of road salts, which I know this body has heard something about too. But that's an example of a type of runoff that can happen from roads, parking lots, roofs, any kind of hard surface. If this is nearby someplace that can run into a body of water, especially at certain times in certain places, that can be of concern. I can talk a lot more about the nuances of all those topics, but those are two examples of things on my mind that I think it's important that we continue to monitor for, in the same vein that you might have a blood draw as part of your annual physical. We send these water quality samples to be assessed for what they have, and then, as the video said, try to compare that on a year-to-year basis to see how trends change.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Just a comment. I would like to thank the Watershed Forum for this program. You brought back some memories of that video. I did that many, many years ago with some of the sampling, and data is so important when we're talking about these types of scientific things, and knowing what is happening to our river, which certainly is an economic driver among many, many other things. So it's interesting to hear. I think when I was doing it, of course, hydrocarbons were the big thing. That was right at the transition. Then I kind of feel it was turbidity, and now it's interesting to hear. Well, now it's runoff and temperature. So I would like to thank the forum, but I'd also like to comment. I know, and it doesn't sound like this has changed, but in the years that I was doing it, we spent a lot of time over at the wastewater treatment plant with the folks helping us get the samples ready and doing all the very specific temperatures and things that need to be done. And I think it's a great thing for our staff to kind of in-kind help with that. So I hope that continues.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Vice Mayor Parker?
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation, and that ConocoPhillips helped you put that together. So a couple questions. The water quality monitoring, how many times a year do you do that?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Parker. This program has been carried out in pretty similar fashion this will be the 25th year. It's designed to be like a snapshot across space and time at a broad scale, twice a year. So once is in the spring. This year it will be April 30th, and then also once in the summer, July 30th. This is meant to be kind of a broad representation. And then if we find interesting things in these trends from year to year to year, that then points us to where we may need to do more detailed investigations.
And as you pointed out in the video, since you started doing that, since the program's inception, we haven't seen where the water quality has deteriorated, and that's a positive in my opinion, because the Kenai River is very important to not only our community but this entire area in the state of Alaska. And I have to give a disclosure. Many years ago, I did serve on the Watershed Forum Board, so I am biased.
Thank
Anything
you
else,
for your
Council?
contribution to that. Yeah, thank you for all that description. I'll highlight one more feature of this project that's important to mention as we have these discussions as part of signing our MOU. The city of Soldotna's contribution specifically, as I believe Council Member Nelson mentioned, is the wastewater treatment plant provides in-kind services as part of their laboratory analysis work. Specifically, they do the analysis for total suspended solids, which is the quantity of floating stuff in the water, essentially, and also for fecal coliform. It's especially valuable to have that location be relatively close to our office because the fecal coliform samples at least have a limited amount of time from when they can be taken out of the water to when they need to be delivered to a lab for them to be considered valid. So it's especially nice to have that location close. The estimated value of annual services that will be provided this year is on the order of, I think, $6,200. So those are funds that we would have to look for somewhere else to make this project happen if it were not for that partnership. So we really value that. That being said, also, we are this year facing a situation where some of the partners that have provided funding for laboratory services beyond what I described are no longer able to support this year. This primarily has to do with federal cuts, which really gets me thinking long term. We're always looking for new partners, new ways to cooperate with the community. So I come here this evening not just to say that we're grateful for your consideration on signing the memorandum of understanding, but also for whatever other wisdom and expertise and connections that this body has to help keep this project going long term. So thank you.
Ms. Kincaid.
You mentioned that you need a lot of volunteers. Do you take teen volunteers?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Kincaid. We would be happy to have help, not just for this project, but Trent mentioned we have lots of other projects that involve the public and the community. Best way to make specific plans is get a hold of us afterwards, or we can talk after the meeting, and yeah, we'll come up with something.
Just for general teenagers as the representative, do you take volunteers all year round or all throughout the day?
Yes, Ms. McCade. We actually have a program now that we started last year that's teen-centric. It's called Junior Stream Watch, and it's for junior high and high school kids solely. And it's a way to get them involved at a sort of smaller scale level that Stream Watch is involved in, but it's for those specific targeted demographics. That happens all summer long, but all throughout the year, we have opportunities for anyone of any age to volunteer and help out. So that would be great if we could get more folks to help with this program or any other.
Ms. Wackler.
I just wanted to take the opportunity. One thing that hasn't been discussed quite a lot yet is the learning opportunities. And I want to thank you guys for providing those to our students. I know my kids have talked about since kindergarten going over the watershed. And it's one of the activities that they definitely talk about. So thank you for providing that also to our students.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Okay, it's time, since everybody's being bold these days and making comments and statements. A couple of years ago, when the Watershed Forum was here, I encouraged the Watershed Forum to look at establishing a relationship with Kenai River Sport Fishing Association, because you both have the same goal in making sure that there is a healthy river. And so as you're looking for money and funding for programs, I would hope that maybe Kenai River Sport Fishing Association, since you're trying to make sure the river's good for fish, would reach out and help you guys out.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Parker. We will reach out to them.
Anything else from the council? I'd just like to thank you for all the hard work you do in keeping our river healthy. It's the centerpiece of our whole entire community from one end to the other end. So thank you for all that hard work.
Again, thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is the Central Area Rural Transit Update by Jessica Schultz, Executive Director, and Tim Dillon, Board President.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to make this presentation. 2005, my family and I moved to the Kenai Peninsula. Came as the director for the Arctic Winter Games. My first meeting was with the Transportation Committee. As soon as I got done with that meeting, I got in my vehicle, drove over to the Borough Building, walked into Mayor Bagley's office, closed the door, and I said, Dale, what did you get me into? He said, what's going on? I said, I just got done meeting with the Transportation Committee. He said to me, Tim, that's that organization. Just work around it. You'll be fine. That was 20 years ago. This last year has been an exciting one for CARTS. We have a new executive director, Jessica Schultz, who's going to make this presentation. We've got a new CFO. We've got a very, very strong board. Linda Hutchins has actually given me a big hand with helping us with the accounting side of things and making sure that from an audit standpoint, that we're able to provide the things that we need to provide. Tyson Cox is also on our board. So quality of living in the Kenai Peninsula, not just in Soldotna or Kenai, but we're also looking at Homer and Seward and what we can do to help on all these areas. So I'd like to turn it over to Jessica Schultz, who has been a lifesaver for us in helping us get the new carts up and running. Jess?
No, now it is. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jessica Schultz, and I am the Executive Director over at CARTS. I was here about a year ago giving everyone an update, so I just want to kind of go over a quick overview on who we are in case anybody doesn't know. Next, yeah, perfect. CARTS is the door-to-door public transportation provider for the Central Kenai Peninsula. The majority of our rides are scheduled in advance, and customers are charged by how many zones they travel through to get to their destination. We provide service Monday through Saturday, 24 hours a day. We have 15 employees with 8 dedicated vehicles, and any rides that we're not able to accommodate on our dedicated fleet gets contracted out to Alaska Cab. The CARTS board has experienced significant growth, reaching the largest number of members since the organization's inception. We are pleased to welcome Ms. Linda Hutchins as our new treasurer and Ms. Glenise Petty as a new member. As part of our commitment to continuous improvement and community involvement, the board is actively exploring opportunities to include representatives from cities of Homer and Seward. With the expanded leadership and broader community input, we're optimistic about the future of CARTS. With a strong focus on expansion and continued growth as top priority, we're confident that the future direction of CARTS and the ongoing success of our services to the community. Perfect. So ridership data for 2024, the program experienced significant growth with nearly a 21% increase, resulting in nearly 36,000 rides. The surge in popularity highlights the essential role CARTS plays in the community, especially in providing reliable work-related transportation. 66% of riders depending on CARTS for their daily work their daily work commute. The service is a key contributor to workforce accessibility across the Central Peninsula. In particular, the city of Soldotna stands out as the second most popular destination
consistently accounting for about 25% of all of our drop-offs, and that's a steady figure since 2023. As many of these trips are employment-related, CARTS continues to play a vital role in supporting Soldotna's local workforce and economic stability by connecting residents to job opportunities throughout the area. Not only in 2024 did we experience a surge in ridership, but we also achieved remarkable improvements in on-time performance. In 24, CARTS achieved an on-time performance rate exceeding 90%, clear evidence of these significant operational improvements. Several factors have contributed to this success, including expanded driving staff, upgraded communication equipment, the implementation of new dispatching software, and the introduction of a user-friendly mobile app. CARTS leveraged the City of Soldotna's $5,000 contribution as the required matching fund for the dispatching software, highlighting the importance of strategic partnerships. Soldotna's investment in the CARTS program stands out as another key element driving CARTS' overall growth and success throughout 24. A little bit about our funding. So our budget is made up of federal, state, and local funds, with about 75% coming from federal sources and the other 25% from local match. With an operating budget of approximately $1.2 million, CARTS requires $310,000 in local match funding. Currently, we're facing about $125,000 shortfall in local contributions, which in turn prevents us from accessing nearly $190,000 of federal funds. Overall, this creates a funding gap of about $312,000, directly impacting our ability to cover essential operating expenses such as driver wages, fuel, and paying our contract provider. So just a short list of our overall accomplishments for 24. We delivered our 1 millionth ride since forming in 2001, which is really exciting. We expanded our service hours to include Saturday, so we're now 24 hours a day, Monday through Saturday. We have a 24/7 answering service, so at any time, any day, a customer can call and have somebody on the phone if they have any questions or issues with their rides. We have 11 full-time drivers, which is the highest number we've seen since 2014. We have a newly appointed finance and operations officer. We ordered 3 accessible vehicles that we're anticipating showing up sometime, probably about September, which is also exciting. And then we have new dispatching software with the mobile app, new equipment to monitor vehicle telematics, maintenance, and enhance overall safety. CARTS Community Partnership Network continues to grow and strengthen with a focus on collaboration and expanding services. In 24, we're excited to announce several new key partnerships that strengthen our community impact and expand our outreach. The City of Soldotna and the City of Kenai. There were multiple partner agencies that we worked with the KPB opioid grant, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, and then Aurora Integrated Oncology. These growing partnerships are vital to CARTS' mission, allowing us to better serve our community while expanding the reach and effectiveness of our services. So I have to say, I've been with CARTS for the last 13 years, and I have to say 24 was probably our best year yet. And as mentioned previously, one of the key factors in that was the launch of our new dispatching software and mobile app that Soldotna helped fund. So for this year, our funding request is $10,000, and that $10,000 is going to be used as local match for our dispatching software and mobile app. And by doing so, that will free up other resources to support critical operating expenses like driver wages, fuel, and our contract provider. So through this partnership, the City of Soldotna is directly investing in the success and growth of CARTS, helping ensure the continued sustainability of essential services. And that concludes my presentation. So thank you for the opportunity to present, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? Ms. Hutchings?
I was wondering, Jessica, if you could expand on your mobile app. I know that was always a problem with some of our employees when they wanted to get to work. They were told that they had to be available 15 minutes before standing in a snowbank, up to 15 minutes after standing in a snowbank. So how has this new program helped the situation?
Well, I can ensure that nobody's waiting in snowbanks anymore, so that's great. with the mobile app, it is a lot like, I don't know if anybody's used Uber or Lyft or even DoorDash. You can go on the app, schedule your ride, and then you will get a notification when your driver is en route to you, and you can physically see the vehicle en route to you. It alerts you when your driver is 2 minutes away, and then it sends you a notification once your driver has arrived at the location. You can schedule rides, cancel rides, view all your rides, pay for your rides all through the app. And you can also look and see any same day availability. So if you maybe forget to schedule a ride or you decide you want to go to the store, you can hop on the app and see all the time slots that we have available throughout the day to get a same day ride.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph.
Thank you for your presentation. One point of interest for me was with your funding structure, with about 75% of it being sourced from federal grants and just the general landscape right now with the uncertainty of federal funding. Are any of the grant programs that you've historically relied on identified or have been reduced recently? Or what are you anticipating for impacts to your organization at this point in time?
As far as I remember, our main grant, the 5311 grant that we get, it's an FTA grant that's funneled through the state. We received funding from that grant for years and years. There was concern about potential federal funding freezes, and as of right now, DOT doesn't foresee our program being affected by any of that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the council? Thank you very much for your presentation and good luck. Things are looking up.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next agenda item is public comments and presentations. Items other than those appearing on the agenda, 3 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes aggregate. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Anyone here in the audience, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Here in Savannah, I live on 163 Sierra Heights Street. We have quite a group. We will barrage you with just a little bit of information. I am going to be the first one to speak with a proposal to change the chicken code. So happy issue. We have a lot of people who are interested in having chickens at their residential property. We argue that property owners should be allowed to raise a small number of chickens to sustain and feed their family, teach their children about responsibility, and a taste of the homesteading spirit of living in Alaska. Currently, chickens are only allowed on over 1.5 acres. When we moved here in 2019, and I came to City Hall because I saw that you had to have an amount of land, and I thought there has to be a way around this. And so I came and I asked someone, and I said, "It says you have to have so much land. Is there a way you can get a permit or an exception?" Nothing. Nothing at all. So it's taken a couple years to get our stuff together. We would propose to allow 6 chickens on lots over 10,000 square feet and 12 chickens on lots over 20,000 square feet. This would be applied to all residential properties, obviously excluding roosters and other noisy fowls. Coops and other structures would comply with all zoning district setbacks and be at least 10 feet from any lot line. So we have a few bullet points we're going to discuss. I am going to talk about comparable ordinances in other places, and then we have noise and odor, community aesthetics, and population control. So I'm going to talk about the comparable cities. For example, Kenai just recently changed to allow 6 chickens on 20,000 square feet and 12 on 40,000. And we have an expert from Kenai to help us over here, Barbara over here. Palmer allows up to 5 chickens on any size lot. Wasilla also allows 6 chickens on 20,000 and 12 on 40,000. And they all have very similar city populations. Some cities don't have any limits at all. So we would like to see the middle ground compromise of up to 6 chickens on 10,000 and 12 chickens on 20,000. We would love to see this change also as quick as possible. Being as we're at the beginning of our season anyways, if this was to be this year, we would love for it to be as quick as possible. So whatever you need from us, if you need help with music, you need support, we would be glad to get whatever you need. So to start that, we would like to continue giving you more information. I'm going to turn over to Aesthetic.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Can you turn the microphone on?
So I support this ordinance because it would help our town look more aesthetically pleasing. Chickens can reduce trash and landfill by a significant amount. Just one chicken can eat up to 83 pounds of scraps from your kitchen a year. So they'll take care of all your compost. You can put there. They can also help our gardens and lawns look more healthy, as chicken poop is a natural fertilizer. And not to mention, it will cut down the number of mosquitoes in your yard and other bugs. And homes with nicely maintained chicken coops and yards can add more curb appeal, while also benefiting the environment. So we both support chickens. And thank you.
Any questions for the from the council? Okay, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Ethan Van Bavel, 338 Banner Lane. I too come to speak in support of the city changing its ordinance to allow the keeping of hens on most residential lots. Let's see. It comes to discussions of changing the ordinances to allow barnyard animals, so-called. One of the common objections you might hear is about noise. So let's explore some comparisons of the noise level. A small flock of hens, 6 or so, generally emits a range of 40 to 60 decibels on the scale. That's roughly equivalent to, on the low end, the hum of a refrigerator in your kitchen, to, on the high end, a normal face-to-face conversation. That doesn't seem all that imposing on neighbors. I have plenty of conversations in my backyard, and I certainly don't mind my refrigerator in my kitchen. I don't think my neighbors do either. I'm sure people don't object to their neighbors using a vacuum cleaner either. That's 75 decibels, which is about 25 times as loud as a small flock of hens at the top of their range. Barking dogs range from 80 to 100. That's over 100 times as loud as a small flock of hens. We have plenty of dogs in residential areas in this city. All this notwithstanding, we already have animal control ordinances that address nuisance animals, whether that's due to noise being one of those instances. So there's already the mechanism that exists to take care of actual problems should they manifest. So it sure would be nice if the residents of this city could keep useful animals. That would help immensely with the home economy. That's all. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Drew King, and I also live at 163 Sierra Heights Street. I'm also in favor of changing the chicken code. I think it would be really beneficial to build a coop and raise baby chickens. It would also be nice to eat our own eggs and not have to buy them. One of the concerns is odor. Odor, so 6 hens produce less manure than 1 small dog. And additionally, chicken manure is helpful and makes an excellent fertilizer, unlike dog poop. So as long as owners properly clean their coops and observe setbacks, there should be no issue. I've also had experience taking care of someone else's chickens, and the odor from experience is not terrible. It is easily blocked by even like 5 feet of distance, and with our proposed 10 feet, there would really be no issue with neighbors. We would love to have our own chickens, and so I would urge you to consider changing our current code to allow chickens on smaller residential lots. Thank you for the time.
Any questions for the speaker? Mr. Chilson?
I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight to speak to this along with everyone else that did. This is actually really interesting to me. I have to admit my own ignorance on this issue. I was aware that we allowed chickens in the city and you could have up to 6 of them. I was not aware about the lot restriction. And it's interesting to me as well because my wife and I, we're raising our first child right now. We've talked about wanting to get chickens for him as well to do as a fun educational experience when he gets a little older. We're actually looking forward to that. We're still a couple of years out from getting there though. And we ourselves would be affected by this. It's just surprising to me. I fully agree. There's a lot of value to be had here, not only for the food sustainability, but the education. Just there's a lot of it to be considered here. I fully support this. Absolutely. I'm kind of on the fence about the 6 versus 12 on the proposed lot sizes. I'll have to do a little bit more reading on that, but absolutely do support this. And I thank everyone for coming out tonight. I'd be happy to be sponsoring an ordinance on this, or if any other council members would like to work with me on that, we should do it.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Good. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jim Parks, 136 Anthurium. I just found out about the meeting tonight. We've been talking to other people in the community about raising chickens. I wasn't aware that we couldn't do it either. I grew up on a farm and I think chickens were the greatest thing in the world for kids, but they wanted me to talk about chicken coops because chickens are kind of attracted for predators. And, I think it's important that if we do allow this, that they build a good coop, make sure that they're good for the chickens, insulated. During the winter, you can put like small electric wire around it, make sure that they're a well-built coop with good screening around it and not just, make it responsible so that we're not just attracting the bears also to the neighborhoods.
Any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please state your name and address for the record.
Shannon Parks, 136 Anthurium. Came in after work, so I'm a little not prepared. But we, like my husband stated, we had chickens in Washington for a number of years while our kids were growing up. The odor issue is not significant if they're cared for. And again, with the existing regulations, that I wouldn't think would be a huge problem. They're a lot of fun. You're not going to save a lot of money on eggs if you do it right, but it is going to be an enjoyable learning experience. It's great if you garden. One of the challenges up here for me gardening is compost. We don't really get warm enough. It's kind of a struggle to keep it going. Chickens will turn over an awful lot of compost. They like to do it. They'll eat the bugs, they'll eat the mosquitoes, they'll eat mice if they show up. I find it really odd that we had them in Washington. We couldn't have them up here in Alaska. I'd really enjoy being able to do that again. So if we could change it, it would be fantastic.
Any questions for the speaker?
Thank you.
Thank you. And please state your name and address for the record.
Barbara Kennedy and 4215 North Lupin, and I'm actually a Kenai resident. But I spent 8 weeks or so going between planning and zoning and city council, and you'll see my name all over Kenai's chicken ordinance because there was a lot of questions, things that I had never considered not common knowledge. And so it was things like, do you have to have a rooster to get eggs? Question, no, you don't. I found that we've become disconnected from our food sources and our children have no concept. You watch videos and they're like, well, we don't need farmers. We just go to the grocery store. That's where our food comes from. And I find that horrific as a mother of a 9-year-old. And chickens are an amazing hobby. There's so much good about them. I couldn't believe that Kenai didn't allow them. So that went great. And now my friends in Soldotna are all going, wait, you have chickens, you're allowed? And I'm like, of course, we passed the ordinance. So now on the tail end of that, friends in the other neighborhoods, they want the chickens as well. In fact, there's more here. They're just behind the scenes. Is nobody's going to tell you they have chickens, but how many backyards have privacy fences? You might find more chickens in town than you know about. But I have a beautiful presentation point for all the notes that we've discussed here today that I'm happy to present. And ask me your questions. I want you to be educated and knowledgeable and understanding about what we want and to bring it together beautifully.
Any questions from the council or any comments?
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Kincaid?
I'm just wondering, since you passed that ordinance in Kenai, have you had any problems from the things that you've discussed?
I'm gonna say I have not, but I have not also tried to contact animal control and ask if there have been more complaints because I got frustrated. I bought a brand new house in a subdivision. I had a half acre. One of my neighbors gifted me 3 chickens of my favorite breed. So, wow, I built a coop, I built a run, I did all the things to make it beautiful. And then the city ticketed me and said, you can't do that. And I'm like, what? Why? So that brought on the discussion of, well, what do we have to do to change the ordinance? Because they're already here. My daughter participates, gathering. Nothing's more exciting for a child than to pick up a warm egg out of a nest. That is so enthralling. Hell, as an adult, I love picking that warm up egg out of the nest. You know where it came from. You know what's gone into it. You know, like, what's in that food. When you grab eggs off the shelf, is it really cage free? Is it really free range? Maybe, but free range chickens, that could be as big as this room and there could be 900 chickens in here and that's considered free range. I like to know where my food comes from as much as possible.
Thank you. I was just wondering.
Any other?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nelson?
And I don't know who to address this to, so if you'll indulge me, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if this is the first speaker, but I appreciate your group coming in. Has anyone in your group or have you talked with the Economic Development and Planning Department yet on this subject as far as a potential change? I see a reaction, so I'm,
Trying to prepare.
could you go up
Miss
there?
Natalie, have a seat with me, Miss. We have.
Steps would be. And so that was our next question in terms of, now we take it to you. This is the first time I've done anything with city council. So we take it to you and then I'm assuming you discuss and then it goes out to the community, right? Before they can make any stuff. How does that work?
Well,
We know
and
they'll have to write the code.
of course, and if you wouldn't mind me maybe posing a question to the city manager, but I think generally from my perspective, because I would say I am generally in support of this idea, but like Mr. Chilson said, I have no idea about these amounts, those things. Right, our economic development planning director is the subject matter expert. So if I could ask, Ms. Mara, is that, would it be appropriate to start there, or do we have any advice for the residents?
So for this topic, it's my understanding, for those of you who have been here much longer than me, that it has been before the council before and the council did not pass it. So that was my understanding. I could be incorrect. I would stand to be corrected by those of you who have been here longer than I have. It, from my perspective, originate then from council as a directive, and it would have to go to planning commission first before coming to you. So the comment about as quick as possible, it's probably 3 months before it could, if it were to be passed. So that would be my thought on the process.
Having been on the council for a number of years and sitting in this position for a number of years, I have no recollection of ever, probably in the last 10, 12 years, being in front of the council. Mr. Chilson?
Vice Mayor Parker, BB. I was just going to elaborate to Dan's point about process, sorry, your question about process. So I think moving forward, we would need to craft the draft ordinance that would propose a code change. Typically, ordinances are created by council members or city administration or a collaboration of both, or sometimes we bring in other outside stakeholders to participate in the assembly of that language. So I would be interested in working to establish one. I don't know if Councilmember Dan would be as well, but we would likely Exactly. So we would approach city administration and say, we would like to an ordinance that resolves this. We don't know the technicals of it. We would like to work with city staff to kind of build some language that they feel is comfortable, they're comfortable with moving forward with. And we'd also likely work with you or someone from your group to see if it meets your needs, and we can find a medium there and then take it to Planning and Zoning Commission as mentioned by our city manager, because they do have to review it. So.
And anyone else
Yes.
wishing to speak? Oh.
Yes. Thank you. And I do recall during my time on council, this has come up in the past. Exactly when, I'd have to go back and look at the code and see when we made the modifications to the code, but we have discussed chickens, and I know there are people around town who keep chickens around. So my question comes back to predators. And Mr. Parks talked briefly about it, ensuring that the chickens aren't attracting predators that are going to come and attack and then create a nuisance in the community.
In general, I've only encountered one hawk. Right after I was gifted those, I was not prepared, but the moose have come up and licked my chicken coop. They don't mind. Haven't really had any stray dogs. I watch the footprints. I have cameras, and after the ordinance passed, mine was not in the appropriate location. So I've disassembled to move, and it'll have an electric fence. You just run electric fence around it during spring, summer, fall. In the winter, most anything big enough to be a problem is not in the vicinity. Is a well-constructed coop, and there's lots of images. I went the extra mile and put in like a concrete footer with treated posts. And then I had, it's called a hardware cloth that goes out across the ground as a skirt that you bury. So anything that comes up to your line to dig runs into a hardware cloth, no getting under. Standard SunTough or garden greenhouse paneled roof. I didn't have any problems or drama with the coop for the few years that I kept it right outside the back door.
Anything else? Anyone else wishing to speak on this subject? Ms. Wackler?
Just to speak on, I don't think you mentioned the one, I think beast that most people are concerned about. I personally did have a situation where a neighbor had chickens, and it actually did, living on K Beach at the time, bring a bear to the neighborhood, and there was significant bear activity at the time, killing their chickens. And so there are instances where that does happen. I'm not negating and saying we shouldn't move forward, but the city of Soldotna does have a lot more riverfront property where residents are. That may be more of a concern than it would be for Kenai. I know people think of Kenai as Kenai River, but really Kenai River is Soldotna when we're talking about residential areas. And there is bear activity in the city of Soldotna. We've seen bears walking down Kobuk. So that is a concern. I think we could probably mitigate some of those concerns within the rules. So just wanted to say that was probably the concern that most people would think about when they talk about chickens.
Anyone else? Couple of quick comments. Number one, electric fence doesn't keep bears out. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law found that out.
It's a deterrent.
They no longer had chickens. They actually didn't have bees after that either.
My.
The bears did a pretty good job. And the other one is, I'd have to ask the chief if there's a statute of limitations on chicken violations. Because when my daughter lived here in town, they had a number of chickens in a chicken coop in their backyard. And I believe they lived right next door to Mr. Nelson. Yep. So it does happen in town.
Well, and that's what we do. We know many people who choose to just have chickens and hope that no one ever complains, but there are lots of us who would like to do it legally. So we would love to work with it and see what we can do.
Yeah, we actually had someone that had a very large pig also in their backyard. And that's been fairly recently. So those kind of things do happen.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
But planning and zoning, I think, would be the first place to start.
Sounds
Yep.
good. Thank you for your time.
Good. Anyone else have any comments for any item not appearing on the agenda? Oh, take that back. Okay, seeing none and seeing none on the Zoom, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, Assembly and Legislative Reports. And I see Mr. Cox is here from the Borough Assembly.
Tyson Cox, Borough Assembly, Soldotna District 4. I was just going to share a few things that have happened at the last meeting, a couple coming up that could affect the residents of Soldotna in this area. One of them is on the mayor's report at our last meeting, there was authorization to award the contract for the Soldotna High School siding. They are only doing about half of it this year, and it's projected at a little over 2.5 million.
Was that part of the bond issue?
It was part of the bond issue. I asked that question during the meeting just to verify, and yes, the monies for that are coming out of the bond. The next item was a laydown resolution by the mayor. It's requesting that the state legislature provide municipalities authority to enact a cap on real property tax assessments on the increases. The assembly, because it was laid down, really wanted some more time to look at it, so we will be reviewing that again in Seward, which our meeting on this next Tuesday is in Seward, just as another note. And then one of the items coming up for introduction at the meeting in Seward, and then the hearing will be on our first meeting in May, 5-6 in Soldotna. We have an ordinance that's going to appropriate more funds for the landfill for the leachate infrastructure project. I'm mentioning that because that does affect Soldotna residents quite a lot, or it could if these things aren't happening. October 24, we have already contracted and put 6.3 million towards that, the building and equipment. Before that, we also put 2.99 million towards the leachate evaporator itself. And what we're being asked now is to put another $977,504 towards an automated system for that so that it will function correctly. So there is a whole lot of money going towards that. Hopefully it will create the outcome that we're looking for, and so that we'll be able to use our landfill there for a really long time. And that's all I have for now.
Any questions for Mr. Cox? I do have some.
Sure.
What's the projection on getting the baler fixed so people can do recycling and things like that?
As far as I know, that is not a projection at the moment. Last I heard is the mayor has a group working on their suggestions of what they want to do for that kind of thing. There is no direct suggestion to us as the assembly, last I heard.
Or to replace the broken equipment?
We've been told that yes, they're looking into it. That's what we've been told.
Then maybe you can give a real brief explanation of what this 5% is that they're talking about on property.
It originally comes, the legislature has been talking about it for the last at least couple of years. I do know that. And what that is that would put a cap on the actual assessment. It would not necessarily change what you are taxed because that all depends on what the mill rate is. All that would do is change the assessment. So if, let's say this year, your the true amount goes up 12% for your home, you would only see on your assessment a 5% increase. If it's only a 3% increase, you would only see a 3% increase. What the questions that I know came up at the assembly were more towards the ideas of, okay, if we have inflation that's going up and maybe inflation's at 7% and we're only consistently going at 5% and that goes over years, how does that pan out? Because it was a lay down, not a lot of that information was given. Hopefully at our next meeting, some of those answers will be there. It is just a resolution to ask the legislature to do that. So it isn't something that we have the ability to enact here unless there is a state law change.
Okay.
But
Any questions? Thank you.
you're welcome.
Moving on to the next agenda item is new business, and that would be Resolution 2025-010, adopting the Soldotna Fieldhouse booking policy introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to adopt? Ms. Hutchings.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-010, adopting the Soldotna Fieldhouse booking policy.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Jolson. Report from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. If Director Todd could please come forward to speak to this.
The booking policy for the field house is a hierarchy of who would have access and when. And in the packet, it's just established the different user groups and the city-sponsored programming and events would have first priority. Typically, these are things similar to like what you would see at the ice rink, which would be of the public skate or the learn skate programs, where we know that these are valuable times and days for the community to access that facility. After that, we would start booking in historical events, specifically ones that are economic drivers for our community, like the home show, sports and rec show. These are often events that are planned over a year in advance. So we would kind of want to get those on the schedule. From there, we get into youth sports and adult nonprofit sports. And so this would be similar to the KPHA and high school programs that are currently in the ice rink, where we would want to lock in these different leagues or programs. And then drifting down, you would get into more of the commercial programs or activities. And using that hierarchy for booking the field house will help the staff make sure that we're using all of the time and space to, the best use. If there's ever a situation where there's multiple nonprofit youth programs that want to practice, at 5 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays, we would do what we currently do at the ice rink, where we would sit down together with the calendar, see what's available, and find a way to make access to that facility fair for both user groups. We've done that in the past with hockey programs, and kind of find a spot where everybody gets a little bit of what they need. And then oftentimes things like the adult programs will come later in the evening when kids are already asleep, and maybe the adults would play at like 9 or 10 o'clock, similar to what we currently do with our adult hockey programs. So this just gives us an opportunity to work with each user group. More details would be in our procedures, the how-tos, the fines, the dates of when things would be doing, or when people would need to request their time. That would all come just in-house with our staff. So I can answer any further questions in regards to the booking policy that we're proposing.
That would be after public comments.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. All right. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Resolution 2025-010, adopting the Soldotna Fieldhouse booking policy. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on this resolution? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Having no one else who wishes to speak, the item is back before the council. Any council comments, questions? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. The reason I asked for this to be pulled from the agenda, our council meetings are broadcast and people can listen to them. We did have a work session earlier today where we talked about this and talked about the field house more in depth. But it's important because that wasn't broadcast, and this is being broadcast for the community to know that there is going to be a procedure in place, and this facility is designed for the community and for community use. So I just think it's important that as we move forward, and since August 16th, we will be having grand opening, that the community is well aware of what we're doing as we look forward to opening this magnificent facility.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, we had a presentation earlier on this, and it was a very informative presentation. And so moving right along, we'll call for a vote.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Parker, Chilson,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Kincaid.
Yes.
You have 5 yes votes.
Resolution 2025-010 passes on a 5-0 vote with 1 absent. Next resolution is 2025-011, establishing the Soldotna Fieldhouse fees, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to adopt? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you. I move to adopt Resolution 2025-011, establishing the Soldotna Fieldhouse fees.
May I have a second, please? Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Report from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If Director Todd will come forward for this one as well.
It's going to be in the hot seat a lot tonight.
All right. So similar again to the ice rink, we've established a fee structure for the new field house that we feel meets the needs of the user groups and our community. We wanted to make sure that this facility was accessible to the entire community and in an affordable way, and it wasn't going to price anybody out. We've heard that throughout this whole process, that there was a lot of concern that it was going to be too expensive to get into the field house and nobody would be able to use that. So we took that to heart. We did a very extensive study with the Alaska Recreation and Parks Association and analyzed all the other recreational facilities in the state, along with some out of state, to see how we compare to other programs, and established our fee structure similar to these other facilities in the state. All the numbers are in your packet, but overarching, we're proposing $5 to get in for adults and $3 for what we're considering the discounted rate. Discounted rate applies to youth, 4 to 18, seniors 65 and over, active military, and veterans would be all in that discounted rate. Once you get into the monthly and 3-month passes, access to the field house gets even cheaper. And so, for example, if you were a high schooler that wanted to go shoot hoops 3 or 4 times a week and you purchased a month pass, you could get that down to almost $1 a visit if you came often enough. And so we also provided drop-in, like 1-day passes, punch cards, 1 month and 3-month passes. This gives the community a variety of options depending on what their interest is of the field house and how much they want to access it. So obviously, if you're going every day to play soccer, you probably want one of the bigger passes because it's going to be more economic for you. If you're not sure and you just want to test the waters, a drop-in or punch card is kind of where you're at. The fees for the court and the turf is kind of the other level. This is where if you want to rent out a basketball court for basketball practice or a chunk of turf for your wiffle ball match that you have planned with your family and friends, This again is a pretty comparable rate. For example, the turf, we're proposing $100 per hour for the whole soccer field. And the Valley and some of the other communities charge $125. So again, pretty comparable to other communities. We on purposely started low for these two rates, the court and the turf, because we want to provide an opportunity for these programs in our community to get established. We don't want to price out a brand new flag football league by overcharging at the beginning. We want to make sure that they would be able to access that, rent out enough turf space to run a new program that doesn't exist here. And so that's why we've chosen to start at the rates that we're set. And I think that's my report.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Resolution 2025-011 establishing the Soldotna Fieldhouse fees. Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on this resolution? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Are there any council comments? Vice Mayor Parker.
I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, and before we open the facility, it's nice for our community here to understand what the fees are going to be and how to reserve the facility if they want to use it. I was flabbergasted when I saw the rate for renting a 41,000 square foot facility. I can rent that for $2,500 a day. That's really, really reasonable. Holy moly. I don't know where you would get something like that, but we have made it to where the rates are reasonable, and there's going to be groups set up to assist those individuals who are having difficulties, maybe being able to get court time, buy court time. So there will be groups out there helping, and it's going to be a busy facility. Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Ms. Kincaid.
So as a teen who does 3 sports, I don't have any questions. I was just going to comment and keep you in your chair. I just want to say I'm really thankful for the field house and like it coming together. I remember when people were first talking about it and it getting in progress, I was looking it up and I was like, oh, it's going to get done in 2028. I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be out of town. And I was a little disappointed, but now it's getting done and it's been a really fast process and I'm really thankful for that. And every single sport I've been doing, it's like, oh, we're going to do this and you're going to have to do your sport and do your practice at 6:30 at the middle school. But when we get the field house, then maybe we'll be able to switch that around and it'll be a lot better. And every single sport is just like, oh, we can use the field house. And so I am personally really thankful as one of the people. And even just like with friends, oh, we can rent out like the court and be able to do something. Like I'm just very thankful as a member of the community about this coming together.
Anything else from the council? Saying none, we'll call for the vote.
Parker? Parker? Nelson?
Yes.
Hutchings?
Yes.
Wackler?
Yes.
Chilson?
Yes.
Kincaid?
Yes.
You have 5 yes votes.
Resolution 2025-011 passes on a 5-0 vote with 1 absence. Next item on the agenda is mayor and council reports. I have a very large note here about somebody having a birthday tomorrow. Oh, it's the city manager's birthday. We're not going to ask what one it is, but congratulations. And there's dirty looks going back and forth here between, but happy birthday. We wish you a very fun time and many more. And when you get the cake out there, better notify the fire department just in case with all the candles on it. But I won't say how many. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, so we make
Next item I have here April, whoops.
Can we make a motion to direct the city manager to have a very good birthday?
Do we want to sing happy birthday? I don't think so. Next thing I have here is April 6th through the 12th, which is this week, is National Library Week. And like I said earlier today, our library is used quite frequently. Every time I walk in there, I end up buying more books. I think the last trip was 10 books and got too many of them. Next item was the thank you note. Dear City of Soldotna, thank you for your generous contribution to the Soldotna High School girls soccer team. Your support is greatly appreciated. Your donation will truly make a difference. Sincerely, and I can't read the signature. Well, it's somebody from the girls soccer team. Okay, that is all I have tonight. And just the other comment is that work session was very informative. I hope a lot of people had an opportunity to listen in on it and know what's going on, that August the 15th is going to be our big grand opening, or August 16th, I think, 15th and 16th. And I think that facility is going to be highly used. And council reports on boards and commissions, March 27th, 2025, Soldotna Chamber of Commerce Board meeting. Mr. Chilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That particular meeting was the Board of Directors annual retreat. I wasn't able to make the entire thing. I did attend a brief board meeting at the beginning of it. There really wasn't much business to be discussed other than just staff changes and ongoing affairs related to that at the city, at the city's chamber. So really nothing to present from the Chamber of Commerce perspective today, but I do have a report for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board I'd be happy to present. Okay, so for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board met on April 3rd. A couple things that were on the agenda for that night. First of which, Public Works Director Cornelius came and presented a update on the beginning of the 5-year CIP update that's going on right now across the city departments, and kind of a overview of how that process works. We also had some good discussion on past Parks and Recreation Department projects that had been incorporated into CIP and had later advanced to fruition. The bulk of the discussion that evening was on 3 particular resolutions recommending various changes relating to the field house. The first was a resolution recommending the staff changes that were discussed at tonight's work session and then passed just now. Additionally, we had the resolution on field house booking policies, and lastly, resolution on staff changes for the Parks and Recreation Department to support the field house. All 3 of those, again, being items that we discussed at depth tonight at our work session and then have already discussed and passed our meeting, so really nothing further to discuss there. And then lastly, we had a good report from our Parks and Recreation Director, Todd, on various ongoings with the department. We had a photo update tour of the field house. Again, it's looking nearly complete to me. It's fantastic seeing that coming along. They've begun their hiring process for all the needed summer positions. They've been out sweeping the parks and sidewalks in force. Due to the early spring that I would say we were having up until this week, the crew have been out putting out the stairs into the river earlier than they've ever been able to. So it's exciting seeing that happening. Hopefully they don't have to take them back out. And then additionally, they are putting the summer ice in effect starting at the last week of June this year, so earlier than they have done in the past, to my knowledge. And then we also spoke about the transition from the supporters of the Soldotna Fieldhouse to the friends of the Soldotna Fieldhouse, who we saw out in force this evening with our work session. It's been pretty fantastic to see the level of support our community is putting forward to support that, not only in its creation, but an ongoing operation. I believe they spoke to that earlier about how the fundraising efforts that they're going to be pursuing in support of the Fieldhouse aren't necessarily just for large projects, but it's all about getting people through the doors, and a lot of focus on youth and offsetting, if not completely covering, the admission charges for youth to use that facility, in particular those that could not otherwise access it. So very encouraging. That's all I have. I'd be happy to stand for any questions or otherwise direct them to the man himself sitting here with us.
Any questions for Mr. Chilson? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of items. I wanted to talk about the lodging tax and the first reporting of operators and their operations. Their bookings was due April 1st. We've had several filing. 17 people have filed their lodging tax returns, which is, the drop dead date is May 1st. So they're coming in, and there have been some questions on the forms, which are great because we want to work through any questions and improve our processes as we need to do so. There are 67 registered short-term lodging facilities, and the list started in August, and there have been 4 notifications, and we've continued with the process of notifying people and bringing them into compliance, and it's been very successful. To our knowledge, we only have 1 operator that is out of compliance, and we're working with that person at this time. So the process is going very well, very smoothly. I did want to report on, we've heard tonight from the presenters earlier about federal funding and appropriations. And I know that we at the city get asked about our federal appropriations and what's going on with us. And I just want to report that we're not as reliant, I would say, as others on federal funding, and all of our the only federal funding so far, with the exception of FAA, but that's very different, and we're not at all concerned about it. The only other federal funding that was the pass-through to the state is USDA, and as you know, that is in Alaska USDA account and secure. And we do not have any other federal funding, and we are okay with that. And that's all I have this evening.
Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, next item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom. And there are no hands raised there. Next item on the agenda is council comments. Ms. Wackler.
No comment today, thank you.
Ms. Kincaid.
Okay, so this week is our prom week, so we're all very excited. Today I'm dressed up in green because I'm a junior and it was our spirit day of the day. And so we're all very excited. It's Rapunzel Tangled theme. So other things going on at SoHi. Our National Honor Society is hosting a blood drive on April 19th at the blood bank, I'm pretty sure. I signed up for 8:30. Hopefully, I think I have a hike that day. And then our play for our theater is going on, and it's going to be Our Town on April 26th and 24th through 26th at our auditorium. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Hutchings.
Well, I would just like to say thanks for a great presentation by the Fieldhouse team. That was wonderful. And now everybody that's always bombarding me, I'll have all the answers. And I would also like to thank Kenai Watershed Forum for all their work that they do. They've done a great job over the years, and they've been our neighbor for years because they're right behind our office building. And also for CARTS, I'm looking forward to being able to work with them and seeing the whole new facelift, so to speak. And that's all my comments.
Mr. Nelson.
Well, just a thank you to everybody that came tonight and gave presentations. It's a very good work session, and I want to apologize for my lateness to that work session. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, and thank you for the folks who came and made the presentations, and thank you for educating us on chickens, and we look forward to hearing more as we go forward. And happy birthday, Ms. Bauer.
Mr. Chilson.
No comments.
And no more chicken jokes tonight. And next item on the agenda is executive session. We have no reason for one tonight. Last item is meeting announcements. April 21st, 2025, Library Advisory Board meeting at 5:15 p.m. And April 23rd, 2025, City Council meeting at 6 p.m. And seeing and nothing further on our agenda, we are adjourned.